right, let's do it live on a Reaction Monday edition here of Cleveland Browns Daily. And, boy, buddy, Merry Christmas to you, by the way. I know we've spoken, but hope you had I know you were traveling, obviously, at the game and all of that, but had a wonderful Christmas with the kids, and there are a few things more magical than this time of the year. I know you had a transformative meat that was made.
Yes.
Was quite exciting. I saw some of the images of that. That was thrilling, my friend. So before we get into the to feeling a little bit like Charlie Brown with the ball being pulled out from under us week in and week out here. Yeah, that's it, brother. Wanted to get that out there. That's where you're at, I think, and it's hard. This is hard stuff because you're with family and you're not same old Browns. It's a really good football team. It's been through a lot this year on and off the field. The injuries, the COVID, all that stuff's very, very real. This is a really, really talented roster. It's a great defense. It's a great defense, and one that held Aaron Rodgers in check, unlike many have all season long, despite the turnovers that went the other way. And yet you're in another game with an opportunity to win it, and you don't. And there are myriad cases this year of this game playing out. We've read this script before, unfortunately. And just an inability. I can't remember the game it was, Z, but we talked about the clutch meter, the clutch gene.
Sure.
Right now we're just lacking it, and it's been a season-long issue.
It goes back to last year. It goes back to the Ravens game on Monday Night Football. It goes back to the Chiefs game in the playoffs. It goes to Chiefs in Week 1. It goes to the Chargers in Week 5. It goes to the Steelers game. It goes to the Ravens game where you intercept Lamar Jackson 4 times, and now this one. And it just adds up over time, and it becomes, honestly, very painful. And as you said, going into it, first of all, I'm glad that you guys had a very Merry Christmas, and Bootsy was just thriving as only he should be.
Oh.
But, it was one of those where you're at the game and you're saying to yourself, all right, coming into this under LaFleur, they're 29-0 and they've won the turnover battle. They've done that in 10 straight games at Lambeau. There are a lot of reasons to think that you didn't have a chance, but the fact that you had the ball with a chance to win after 3 interceptions that led directly to 21 points off of turnovers. I mean, they scored 3 points all game that weren't off turnovers, and those 3 came on the opening drive of the second half. After that, your defense did not allow another point. They'd come into the game averaging 36 points a game, and yet you did that without Clowney, without McKinley, with a hobbled Myles Garrett, without Malik McDowell, without Greg Newsome, without Troy Hill, without Ronnie Harrison or John Johnson.
Two third-year safeties.
And 2 corners, pass rushers, everything you think you would need. Yeah. And, tremendous coaching and effort on the back end. MJ Stewart is becoming a guy that, you want to see on the field right all the time, right in front of your very eyes, with his ability to play in coverage and then to come tackle and all those things. And it's just the same old story, and it's a bad story. It's a story you don't like. And yet it is a very feasible scenario that you could still win this division. Now, you need help. You don't get to control your own destiny. No, the Raiders game. I forgot. How could I forget that? And the Raiders game.
How could you forget the Raiders game?
Right.
This happened twice in a week.
Right. That one was slightly different than this one. The D was on the field, but it's been a brutally painful season, and the inability to come through against teams of consequence when you need to has been, frankly, devastating. And that's why we are where we are. Now, you still can salvage it. We still are a good football team. We're clearly incredibly well coached. We have total buy-in because it doesn't matter if you're second string, third string, whatever, everybody steps in and steps up. But it's the mistakes, it's the turnovers, it's the missing the extra point that causes you to chase that when had you just made all your extra points, it's 24-24. It's all those little things, the missed field goal the week before. Just little things that we're not sharp at. We're not clutch. We don't get it done when we need to get it done. And it's typically, more often than not this year, it's been offense, special teams. The D has, I think, played great of late. And it just hasn't been enough to add up to wins. And it is frustrating. And you need to see it happen. It's one of those things that you need to see it happen. And I think, so much has been made about the play calling at the end of the game. Like, I don't think there's ever been a team in the history of a 2-minute drill that started with 3 runs before us. I mean, I'm sure it's happened at some point, but I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah.
And then you think about first down, you have Chief wide open. and then you run a screen, and then on third down they get the interception. But, I think part of it is, too, you need to see the success, and you're not going to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to do anything that actually matters unless your quarterback sees that success himself. And so I kind of like the play calls. And by the way, we were going to score to get all the way down to the 10-yard line. He was not trying to get to the 35 and have Chris Nagar kick a 52-yard field goal with the season on the line. And I understand why he was hesitant to do that. You hit that pass to Chief, that's going to be an explosive play. That's going to put you already into field goal range, worst case scenario. He probably gets out of bounds, and then you've got a lot, all the options on the table. I thought the fact that we averaged 8 yards a play in the first half, the fact that we outgained them by 100 yards, the fact that we outgained them by a yard per play, the fact that we had one of our best games on third down, it's the turnovers, plain and simple. That's why we lost the game, 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
It's just gut-wrenching. And I do think, though, you played a lot of hoops. You were a high-level athlete growing up, all state. You need to know that you can do it. You've got to do it.
You got to see the ball go in the rim.
Right.
And you need to actually do it. You can talk it. It's hitting a golf ball.
Yes.
It's hitting a golf ball straight. You can go to the range forever, and you can pound balls at the range, and you can power them down the middle, and you can do all, the perfect shot shape, right? All of that stuff. But when you get to the tee box, and whether it's with your group or with others around, that's when it matters. You have to do that, and you have to see it. And I think this goes back to, the Kansas City game, even early, the Chargers game. We needed to see it. I think you saw what happens when you see it in Buffalo the last 2 weeks. And they got it out of a loss. For them, it came in a loss. They lost to Tampa Bay, but not for lack of effort. And they came all the way back. They came all the way back against Tampa Bay in a loss. And since that point, that's been a different football team. This football team, however you want to slice it, the feeling that I get is when it comes to those moments, we do not have the confidence that we're going to go win the game. It's not there. The belief's not there. The execution's not there. And the result is one that we've seen time and time again. I mean, you went through 6 or 7 examples this year alone.
Going back to last year, yeah.
Going back to last year, you got 8. I mean, so you're talking about a ton of opportunity to see the ball go down the middle of the fairway, and every time it's sprayed right or left into the junk, and you're trying to scramble out of it, and you just can't do it. It's not tenable. It's not a way to win in this league. It's certainly, to your point, not a way to win a Super Bowl or win playoff games. So it's something that is just going to have to come with time with this team, and a little bit, and in a certain extent, you're running out of it now at 7-8. To your point earlier, as incredible as it sounds, it's all still there for you. And it's honestly not that hard to make happen. It really isn't. Now, you're going to have to beat one really quality team in 2 weeks. Yep. And you're going to have to beat Pittsburgh, who bullied you here. But at their place, you're a 3-point favorite in that game. And then you've played great against Cincinnati the last 2 years. Oh, yeah. I have a feeling everyone's going to look dreadful against Kansas City down the stretch here. I mean, they did that without Kelsey in the game, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But it's all still there. It's not that difficult. It's all still there for you to do. There were some incredible bright spots. I think our defense is right now nothing short of borderline heroic.
Yeah.
The way that it plays with all the people who are out. I mean, I've been on as you know, I've been on this Packers bandwagon for 6 weeks or so now, thinking they're the best team in football. And I've seen a lot of their football in the last month and a half. I have not seen them really stymied the way our defense stymied them in a long time. You got to go back a long ways to find a game where they really couldn't get off the ground, and they struggled. To your point, the 3 touchdowns come off of turnovers.
Yep.
And without that, they don't get a whole lot. So I thought that was an incredible bright spot. Nick Chubb was an incredible bright spot. Joel Bitonio playing left tackle. My God, what can't the man do? Was an incredible bright spot. But I think we're past moral victories now too. And
yeah,
that's the thing that's hard is. This is a team that had and still has enormous expectations, and to this point, this season, you have failed to deliver on those despite numerous opportunities, and that's the thing that's hard to swallow on a Monday.
That's what's crippling to you. I mean, that's honest to goodness. That's what
it
is crippling to you on this Monday is that you've had so many. Frankly, you've had the opportunity that it should be over already. Like the division should be wrapped up. Now it is feasible. Look, the Ravens are underdogs significantly against the Rams. The Bengals are underdogs against the Chiefs, and we are favored against Steelers. Those are the three things that you need to happen this week. Rams beat the Ravens, and we don't even know who's playing quarterback for the Ravens at this point. The Chiefs, who are beating everybody, beat the Bengals, and we beat the Steelers. And if that happens, then Week 18 at our place is for the AFC North between us and the Bengals. So it's all right there. It's feasible. But, yeah, it feels like it shouldn't be at this point.
No.
And, right now we have to believe our end of the bargain is that we must win 2 games in a row, which we haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
And so and we haven't seen it, and especially in a clutch situation. But you talk about guys stepping up and guys buying in and guys doing whatever it takes. Nick Harris comes in and plays a great game, lining up across from Kenny Clark. That is not easy. Didn't allow a single pass rush pressure, not one, on 42 snaps. Incredible. Jeez. He did a great job. You think about just how close it has been. And look, let's be honest. The Browns got a massive break in this game. And that's the other thing. When does Devontae Adams drop a wide open ball?
Right.
Never.
No,
that's how we got the ball back. That's like you have.
Yeah, because he put it right on the number.
You have the best hitter in baseball up, and he fouls one off, and they drop it in foul territory. Everybody knows what comes next is then he hits a grand slam. Everybody knows it.
Yep.
We just don't hit. We got that, and we didn't take advantage. And I know that the referees were not at their best in this particular game, but that's not an excuse. You knew you go through the keys to victory last week. Number 1, clean sheet on offense. Nope. Not even close. Number 2, I thought we had to score in the 30s. Turns out our defense did better than that. That was a team averaging 36 points a game, but we didn't do that either. And then number 3 was get out to a fast start, take a lead into the half, take a lead in the fourth quarter. We didn't do that either. That's how you beat that Green Bay Packers team. And we were unable to do it, and a lot of it self-inflicted wounds. Self-inflicted wounds. Turnovers. Missing an extra point feels almost like a turnover because then it lingers and you chase it and it becomes a thing all game long, which it did in this case.
No question. Yeah, you can't. That's happened to us a lot. Score on that first possession or go have a long drive on the first possession. Either don't get the fourth down or miss the extra point or miss the field goal. And that stuff's it's debilitating, and it feels like it cripples us, certainly. Obviously, there's a lot to get to on this. The Joe Thomas Hour of the program will be coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll ask the Hoff about all of these things. I want to remind you the Browns bundle at Buffalo Wild Wings is on for the remainder of the season. With the purchase of a Browns bundle, fans get a limited edition collectible Browns glass. The $14.99 Browns bundle includes a 6-piece wing, fries, and a Browns glass. This season collection honors the 75th anniversary with 3 unique designs. Get to Buffalo Wild Wings and check that out. We talked about the path to the playoffs. It's not that convoluted. It's not that far-fetched. We got to get our stuff sorted out, but it's not that difficult. We'll also go over the injury report, or for knock on whatever wood you can find, a lack of an injury report. We will get to that as well. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau here for my friends at Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River. The holidays are here, and your New Year's Eve can be special with Char, offering New Year's Eve reservation specials. Dinner for two, including a Wagyu strip steak at limited availability. Catch the game of the week as you sip on over 300 premium whiskeys at the Char Bar. And when I say premium, I mean premium, and I know whiskey. Char is hiring multiple positions, including kitchen manager, prep, and line cooks. Stop into Char in Rocky River to apply. Support local. Visit Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River or at r/rockyriver.com for more details. Good spot there. Let's go over where we stand, and we'll get to the playoff picture that we kind of alluded to a little bit in the first segment. But no new injuries to update and no COVID updates at this point. So theoretically, Z, by the time we get to Pittsburgh on Monday night, we ought to be about as healthy as we can be going into the final stretch of the season with 2 games left.
Yeah, which is
barring
good.
God knows what could happen this week. Who
you
knows?
Came out of that game pretty well. Obviously, Myles Garrett said that he does not feel great his injured groin is not feeling great, which is really not a surprise, I would say, because he looked pretty hobbled in that game against the Raiders and gutted it out for the Cleveland Browns, which was awesome to see him put forth that kind of effort. But I think the big news is not only are you going to be, healthy going into it. Now, we still don't know about Troy Hill, who missed this game truly due to injury. Same with Kareem Hunt, both also on the COVID list.
Yeah.
But you should get your guys back off of the COVID list. We should have Greg Newsome for this game, hopefully. We should have Malik McDowell back. We should get Jadeveon Clowney back for this football game. We should get, Hill,
Newsome?
Hunt, Harrison. Now, John Johnson's out with an injury. We don't know about John Johnson. But you should be as close to whole. Jed Wills coming back for your offensive line. You should be as close to whole as you possibly could be here for this critical game going against, against the Steelers. A game that they're all must wins. There's no scenario in which we can keep hoping that everybody else loses. No, because we play in the division. We must win these football games. Bottom line.
And you saw the comments from Cam Hayward when they said, are you ready to push the chips in? And no, there's still games to be played. We're not going anywhere. So whatever Pittsburgh's best is Monday, we know well enough to know that we're going to get it in that game. You're going to get their best. They're not a great football team, obviously, but they've beaten us once at our place, and you'll get a full day from them on Monday night by the time you get there. So you should be healthy. The road to the playoffs, it's crazy because, when this whole thing started, we said 3-1 gets you in. And by the way, if you had done that, if you would have beat the Raiders,
you're golden.
You'd be doing cartwheels right now. You're golden. You're absolutely golden. You didn't, and so you are where you are. But we said 3-1 you'd have been in a great spot. You lose your first 2, but still, by winning your last 2, and I mean, you don't need big help here. It's pretty straightforward. It's a simple matter of the Bengals play Kansas City and the Ravens play the Rams. Kansas City will be favored against Cincinnati, even though it's in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was lights out on Sunday against the Ravens. 4.5. And the Rams will be favored against Baltimore.
3.5.
Yeah, both instances. So those are things that aren't that unrealistic. You would expect both of those things to happen. My guess is most of the money would be on the Chiefs to beat the Bengals, and most of the money would be on the Rams to beat the Ravens.
Yep.
So you do that, and you beat Pittsburgh, and then you're playing one game against Cincinnati for all the marbles. That's not the only scenario. The other scenario is the Chiefs beat the Bengals. And so it starts there. Kansas City's got to beat Cincinnati. They'll be favored to do so, as you said, by 4.5. Kansas City's as good as any team in football the last 10 games. The other thing that would need to happen would be the Ravens beat the Rams, which I think is unlikely unless Lamar can come back and be great, but he hasn't played in a couple weeks. And then you need Pittsburgh to beat the Ravens in Week 18. All of this happens, though, we still have to win our last 2 games. That goes without saying.
Yep.
If the latter scenario happens, you win out, you win the division, and host Wild Card Weekend. That is the simplest, straightest path. It's not that unlikely that those scenarios play out. In fact, it's likely that the Rams beat the Ravens and likely that Kansas City beats Cincinnati.
Yep.
Now, the question is, can you hold up your end of the bargain on Monday night in Pittsburgh to set up a winner-take-all on Sunday, the following Sunday? Here.
You have to. And look, I'll tell you what, with this team, you saw what happened in this game for the Steelers against the Chiefs. Their offense is struggling. You got to lock them down. It's going to be about our offense. Can we get out to a fast start? I don't think we need to be playing down into the fourth quarter. You need to go out, and you should be able to just take it to this football team and beat them. Demonstratively, safely, comfortably. Now, and we just, for whatever reason, seem to have the Bengals number. Baker Mayfield, 5 of his 7 best career games are against the Bengals. That's the team that he just, for whatever reason, that's who he plays well against. So we've got that going for us, which is nice if it does come down to that game. But you've got to just take it to them. And I think you should. This is not a good Steelers football team. I mean, and look, Ben, as he did last year, he's fallen off a cliff at the end of this season. Just like he did a year ago. Cold weather.
Yeah, cold weather with an elbow.
Yes.
It's not something that's going to hold up. And they are really struggling. Pittsburgh's really struggling. So it sets up for you. Just from a timeline standpoint, and we'll hear from Coach here in just a couple of minutes. He had his press conference earlier this morning. We'll play that for you. Just from a timeline standpoint, what's your best guess? And again, guess, I won't hold you to this, but just in terms of guys starting to cycle back into the roster, when could that start to happen in terms of getting into practice and those type of things? And then with the long weekend, I mean, you're going to go, it's almost like a mini bye, Saturday to Monday. What does this week look like for us?
Yeah, I think we should get a lot of guys back, honestly, on Tuesday. The people that are ready to practice tomorrow, the people that you would be curious about more than any other would be Clowney, because I believe he went in on a Sunday onto the list on Sunday, even though reportedly he tested positive on Friday. So if he tested positive on Friday and it was just for some reason a transaction wire thing, 10 days from that would get him back in time. He could be eligible to come off as early as today, in fact, but he could be back Tuesday. Newsome is the closest one. But I still feel like you're pretty good. And he's tweeting out about Monday night already, so maybe he knows things that we don't know.
Sure.
But you should have everybody. Ronnie will be back. I think you should have all these guys back early in the week because Ronnie and Malik McDowell were in the first wave. They've missed 2 games. So those guys you would think would be back immediately this week.
You would, yeah. What about JC, who was a late last week?
Late last week.
He went on Thursday.
So then he'd be back for Monday.
I mean, day 10 would be Sunday.
Yep. He'd be back Monday.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's if he doesn't test out sooner, right?
Right. And he doesn't practice often anyway. So, I mean, this would be no different for him. No different for him.
How do you think this week lays out for us with the rare Saturday to Monday practice schedule?
It's good. Good. And what I mean by that is you can get that time, get people back. It gives you an opportunity to make sure you're fully locked in, fully prepared. We actually have a chance to have probably more practices this week than we've had in the past 2 weeks combined. So this, to me, feels like an opportunity to really come in and play well. But look, let's be honest. The plan was great.
Yeah.
In this game against the Packers. It was great.
Sure was.
You're gashing them, running it. You're gashing them, throwing it. The screen game. You know, and people, Nick Chubb still touched the ball 20 times, and then you had Dearness kind of playing the Kareem Hunt role where he actually got full series, and he played great.
Yeah. Your defense played great. You had a great defensive plan.
Everything about it was great. Here's the one thing that I personally don't get from some of the criticism. He needs to give up the play calling. It's the most absurd notion I've heard. Kevin Stefanski has done a great job. Look, is he going to be 100% every play call is going to be perfect? No, nobody is in the NFL. Not a single play caller. But I think philosophically he does a great job. He has put this offense in a position to score significantly more points than it has. I don't think there's any question about that. And then the idea that you've got, well, how could you even put the ball in the hands of your quarterback? Like, if that's the mentality that some people in the fan base have, then how do you think we're going to win anything? You can't win in the NFL without a quarterback that you can put the ball in his hands to win a game. That's the essence of the position. And now Nick Chubb was doing great. People act like we didn't run the ball. We ran for 209 yards. You can't run for 209 yards if you're not running the ball. I don't get that. We even put in runs for Anthony Schwartz, picked up 24 on his 2, reverse and an end around. I just think you need – part of it was go back and just watch it. The first down play, that should have been a chunk play. That's called a great play call. You get a call in a money situation that creates a scenario for your team to hit a big play and explosive, and it doesn't happen, that comes down to execution. But you, as a coach, you know, number one, you need your quarterback, okay, to get the ball down the field and have that success so that you can do it when it matters in the playoffs, number one. Number two, people act like, and I realize, I know that we were running the ball great, but you have a minute left. You have your timeouts. You were still just right around midfield. A couple of runs for 2 yards, all of a sudden, if you just run it just like we had Nick Chubb against the Raiders. We ran 3 times in a row and we didn't get 10 yards. You do that, it's over, like at that point.
It's over. Yep.
So people are so focused on the outcomes, and I get it. That's what matters. You talk about wins and losses, but outcomes come from a variety of factors. You need it, like, good play calls are play calls that set your team up for success. Our offense was set up for success a ton in that game. An absolute ton. And they executed a lot of it.
Yep. If I were to tell you that going to Lambeau, you would outgain Green Bay 408 to 311.
Right. Look at the first downs.
That you would average 8.8 yards a carry to their 4.5. That you would be 7 of 12 on third down conversions to their 3 for 10. If I would have told you that you would average more yards per play by almost an entire yard more than Green Bay at their place,
right,
you'd have said, well, we won. If we've done those things, we've won. But there are 2 stats that tell the deciding factor of this game. The number one is the 4 turnovers to their 0. That's the first one. The second one is 5 sacks for 33 yards to their 0 for 33 for no yards. We were sacked out of field goal position on 2 separate occasions. This is stuff that costs you games against the great teams. So you can do all of the big fancy things that you have to do. Third down percentage, more yards, yards per carry, yards per pass attempt, yards per play. You can do all of that, and you can beat them in all of it. But if you turn the ball over, you miss your kicks, and you take sacks and give up sacks, you lose.
Yeah, 28 first downs to their 19. You're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. And the interception and an interception in the red zone on a perfect, again, play call where Jarvis is open that gives you a chip shot field goal, which was what the goal was right there. You remember, you just had a kicker who had missed an extra point. You weren't feeling hunky-dory about your kicking situation at this point. So you're trying to pick up some yards on a 3rd and 19, and you have it there. Jarvis sits down 12 yards right there. They're playing the sticks. So you had it. And unfortunately, as Heat Baker said, he was falling back, and he overthrows it. Those 3 points are the difference in this game. Right there. Even if you just complete that pass, settle for the field goal, that's the difference. You're right. You outpossess them by 4 minutes. I mean, look at this from a defensive perspective. You go to drive by drive. So they go 7 plays, 17 yards on their opening possession, punt us the football. Touchdown on a short field after the pick. Touchdown on a short field after the pick. Next time they have the ball after we score, get a kickoff, 3 and out. Touchdown short field after a pick. Then their best drive of the day from a yardage standpoint, or second best, 76 yards, was the opening drive of the second half. Then they go 3 plays, -1 yard, punt, 3 and out, punt, 5 plays, 17 yards, punt. And then at the end of the game, they were able to take it down. 3 plays, 8 yards. That was it. They iced the game right there. But you're talking about they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possessions that mattered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possessions that mattered that they gained 0 or 1 first down. And they had 3 touchdowns off the turnovers and 1 drive themselves where they produced a field goal.
Yeah. I mean, it's all there. It's all there for you. Lots of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. Those myths can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. You'll hear from Coach Stefanski coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily here on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. And EOX Vantage has a local presence and a global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Here's a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Scheel. Ed is the Vice President at Skyward Specialty Insurance. The tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door for us to all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They help our team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely, make it easy to communicate with customers, and cut way down on manual data entry and the associated input errors, cut hours off processes and response times. Operationally, Ed says it's a brand new ball game for us, and it can be for you too. I encourage you to learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616 for more. And now, here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
Like we talked about,
You guys are down 7 minutes.
how we feel watching it on the tape. Certainly frustrated. Felt like we had a real good opportunity to come out of there with a win versus a good team, and we didn't come through. So frustrated, and we're going to watch the tape with the players tomorrow, pull it apart, see ways that we can get better, and that's got to be our focus. Our whole focus is on Pittsburgh, and we got now a long week going into this one. Get some guys back, hopefully off of the COVID list, and then put a plan together to go find a way to get a win in Pittsburgh. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I'm sure you have gone over the film with your coaching staff. In terms of the last drive, you guys have the ball at the 50. You've got 3 timeouts. Do you have any regrets about your play calls there?
We felt pretty good about the calls, Tom. Specifically, we had a potential for an explosive on first down, had a screen on second down when the screen game had been good to us. And then third down, obviously, we turned the ball over. But, we're always considering many different ways to go there. And you're right, we had those 3 timeouts, so we felt like we were in control there. But ultimately, when you don't come through, you second guess everything. I mean, you second guess the first play of the game, the second play of the game, whatever it is. When it doesn't work, we're definitely second guessing ourselves.
Hey, Coach, as far as on the defensive side, obviously you were down and didn't get the pass rush you wanted, but shorthanded defense, they were dealt coming off the 3 interceptions. They gave you a chance to win, and they've been giving you a chance to win, in the last several games. Can you talk about the defensive play?
Yeah, holding that team to that amount of points, again, in that building when they have, the ability to run their offense and the quarterback does a great job, as in their operation. So I think limiting the points was a big deal. Obviously, I think we could have played better in the first half. We gave up a couple plays there in the red zone. I think that, we can be better as players, as coaches. We can just do a better job in that first half. Having said that, second half defense was really good. And again, limiting the amount of points in that building, I think, is a big deal.
Kevin, what do you tell Baker about those 4 interceptions? I know it's case by case, but what have your conversations been like with him about them?
Yeah, I think with any of our players, Nate, you got to learn from each one of these. And with the quarterbacks, it's no fun to watch the interception reel and talk through them and learn from them. It's not, again, not fun because you don't want to turn the ball over, but we do have to learn from them, and because we got to take care of the ball. It's kind of it's important to how we win. So we didn't do a great job there, but we'll have to look at the tape together, watch it, and then make sure we get better moving forward.
Do you think he was rusty not practicing for 2 weeks? And the other question I have about him is, where do you think his confidence is after a career high 4 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think Baker told you guys, I'm sure the other night, he didn't play up to his standard. And we expect him to play at a high level. And I think confidence-wise, with the quarterback position, you get too much credit, you get too much blame. And that's just how it is. And he'll bounce back, and I think he'll be better for it.
Hey, Kevin, it seemed like you guys opened up your formations a little bit on Saturday, a lot more 11 personnel, 3 receiver sets, things like that. But was that just a game plan thing? What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I think it was certainly game plan specific to who you're facing, the different looks you're getting to certain personnel groupings. So it just felt like 11 was what we wanted to be in that game. It could be moving forward, but we just got to make sure that we're doing what we think makes sense versus that particular defense.
Donovan Peoples-Jones
sort of versus the Anthony Schwartz stretching the field concept. Do you think that maybe now that Anthony is back off the concussion, has got his feet wet a little bit, can you use him a little bit more in that regard and maybe back Donovan off? Because it seems like Donovan has almost gotten to the point where he's struggling in that role somewhat.
Yeah, I think for sure with Anthony, like you mentioned, coming off the concussion protocol, getting into these games, getting him some touches, I think his role will grow as he becomes, just playing more football. I wasn't playing there for a little bit.
Not to belabor it, but the last after the game, you just said it again, your thinking was to score a touchdown. Did you not have confidence in the kicker to kick a field goal?
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as lack of confidence, Tony. I just think, to be fair to Chris, in that type of game, didn't want to attempt a long field goal with the game in the balance. We wanted to go score a touchdown, something that we had done throughout that game, moving the ball. So certainly if it came down to a field goal, he's our kicker. We have confidence in him, but our mentality wasn't to just get the ball to the 35 or the 40 and attempt a long field goal.
Kevin, getting a second look at Baker's last pick, was there something that he could have done better on that play, or did he make the right read and the right throw, and maybe if Donovan doesn't get grabbed from behind, that's a completion in your mind?
Yeah, Doug, each play that goes by, every single one of our players, they're going to want something back on any given play. I know it gets magnified when it's the last play of the game. It was unfortunate that the ball got intercepted there. I think, we certainly feel like there was potentially, a flag on that play, but we didn't get it. So we're not ever going to hope for, a flag to help us in those situations. Just, it didn't happen.
And Kevin, again, you talked about the 11 personnel made sense in that matchup against the Green Bay defense. Were there aspects of that generally that you liked, in some of the things that maybe opened up? And then when you guys throw 4 interceptions in that situation, though, does that lead you at all to maybe we need to pull back on that and use 13 personnel more?
Back in 30.
I think it's all things that we'll talk about. I think so much of it, Doug, is who's available to you in that given week, players-wise, where the health is at certain positions. And then it really is dependent on your opponent. How does your opponent respond to those personnel groupings? But certainly we did some good things. I don't want to discount that. There were certainly some good things going there, particularly with that run game. So those are all things that we got to consider as we move forward.
You're up.
All right, there you have Coach Stefanski with some of his comments about personnel and play calling and how he viewed what happened in Green Bay. What did you make of it?
All right, so a couple things. Number one, we've been talking about in recent weeks how the Ravens, for example, matched our 11 personnel, 3 receivers, with some of their base defense to stop our runs. I talked a lot during the game broadcast about the way that the Packers matched our 11 is often they would have either what's called a 2-4-5 nickel, or they would do a 3-3-5 nickel, which if you're a defense who plays a 3-4 predominantly, those are the 2 ways you get into nickel. And so what that means is they could have one that's a 2-4-5 nickel. So that means you've got your 2 interior down linemen, you have your 2 outside linebacker pass rushers standing, and then you've got 2 linebackers behind them, and then your nickel, your corners, and your safeties. So that leaves a 6-person box, as does a 3-3-5. A 3-3-5 is where they actually have their 3 down linemen. They've got their 2 outside linebackers, so it's kind of a 5-man front with just 1 linebacker in the middle. Again, a 6-man box. Now, even if they walk a safety down in either of those scenarios, that's a 7-man box. That is a light box. And so the Browns were able to run the ball very effectively out of 11 personnel, more so than they've been able to do this year. The Packers are one of the few teams that have responded to that with staying in a light box. And so that's why the run game had as much success as it did and why you saw more 11 personnel in this game. The other thing is I get a lot on Twitter about why do we run empty? Why do we run empty so often? Well, a lot of the times when we run empty, we do so out of a look that would be a 2 tight end look, and then you're able to spread everybody out, and you get matchups that you like. And so people say, we do that and we're terrible at it. Well, overall, our average play for the season on offense has a negative .023 EPA, expected points added per play. So negative. Our average play overall is 5.5 yards per play, and our average play overall this year has a 35% success rate. Out of empty, our EPA per play is positive .015. Our yards per play is 6.0, and we have a 37% success rate. So we actually, out of empty, are better than we are on our average play call. So the notion that we are a bad empty team, which I see all the time, why do we keep doing that, doesn't make sense to me because the proof is right there. Number two, you go back to that first drive. How did we get down to the one? Oh, we ran a play out of empty, spread them out. Jarvis Landry beat a guy man-to-man, gets down the 1 yard line. Nick Chubb runs it on the next play. People are misconstruing poor execution with flawed play calling and flawed schematic application. And again, I'm not saying that Kevin Stefanski is infallible. There are play calls everybody wants back at some point. Every play caller in the league, that's true of. But what I am saying is that I think people who want to really understand the game and want to really understand what we are trying to do to an opponent, watch the all 22. Make notes. We come out in this, they do that. They match that personnel with how many people in the box. The defenses will tell you their mindset about our offense. And the fact is, defenses are more afraid of our ability to run the ball than to throw the ball. And rightly so at this point, right? This was a team in the Packers that I don't know if it was for personnel reasons, because they didn't have, Jair Alexander. They'd been struggling. They'd been giving up 31 points a game because people had really been passing on them. That their contention was, and by the way, outside of the interceptions, and if you saw even some of the missed throws, guys were open to gash this secondary. So they must have thought, we can deal with you matriculating the ball down the field, running 6-7 yards a carry, rather than load the box and put guys that we don't feel. Remember, no Jair Alexander, and Kenny King went to the COVID protocol for them day of the game. So they're down 2 of their top 3 corners. I'm guessing that's what they thought. And Rasul Douglas, by the way, they claimed him off of a practice squad this year. And
Rodgers pointed him out post-game. He said he's transformed our defense.
They claimed him off of a practice squad.
Crazy.
And now he's had back-to-back interceptions at games at Lambeau Field for the first time. It was like a long, long, long time ago. Yep. But that's why these things happen. That's why you see us go into these groups, because if we line up in heavy and somebody puts 9 guys in the box, I know that you guys believe that we're positioned to run the ball and we're so great at running and yada, yada. We are a good running team. But then you can get advantageous matchups by spreading them out because they don't have a personnel grouping out there that is designed to cover. And so that's why you do some of those things at that time. Now, we still do run the ball a ton.
Yeah. I think there's a notion that, it's almost like a collegiate mentality. And I think, honestly, one of the worst things that happened for some in our fans base is the success that the Patriots had up in Buffalo, where they just ran it every play. And we just do that. Let's just do that. Well, by the way, did you see what happened to the Patriots yesterday when they couldn't throw the ball down the field against Buffalo, and Buffalo did throw the ball down the field? But
their running back had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they still lost because you have to be able to throw.
Lost. You have to throw the ball. There's this, I think, it's kind of like that old college mentality where let's just run it every time and pick up 3.5 yards. Well, there aren't enough hats to block all of the people on the opposite side when you put 8 and 9 in a box. And these are NFL players, and they're fast, and they're smart, and they get to a hole. And I don't care how good Nick Chubb is, and he's great. He's not good, he's great. He is great. He can't beat 2 people every single time by himself without blocking. Doesn't happen. So you can't do that. And there's an incredibly low ceiling to having that mentality, to your point. You can't win playoff games. You think you beat Kansas City doing that? You think you can beat Buffalo doing that? The Chargers doing that? No, you cannot. Can't do it. No. So what do you want to be? Like, we were in the playoffs a year ago. We won 12 games. This isn't playoffs or bust. It's trying to win a Super Bowl or bust.
And by the way, we got to the playoffs with our quarterback throwing 20 touchdowns and 2 interceptions over the second half of the season, and us being an effective passing offense. Now, that has been the problem, is that we have not been nearly as effective throwing the football this season, and that makes it difficult. But that doesn't mean that necessarily it is wrong, and I urge people, again, watch the tape. Look at the first interception down to Peoples-Jones. That could have been a chunk play to Hollywood Higgins. So there are things that are not being delivered upon, and then Baker's made some great throws. The 3rd and 15 ball to Hollywood Higgins is as good a throw as you'll see anybody in the NFL make this week.
Absolutely.
It's the lack of consistency in the execution that's tough, and we've had it in the run game too. People act like, oh, if you call a run, it's guaranteed to work. Well, guess what? We ran on 3rd and 3 with our season on the line, and we didn't fully execute our blocks on the backside, and we didn't get it, and we lose to the Raiders as a result. So play calls.
I wonder if the same people who are complaining about Nick Chubb not getting carries in the fourth quarter are the same people complaining that we didn't throw it on 3rd and 3 against the Raiders.
I would venture that there is some overlap. I just think the notion the notion that Kevin Stefanski needs to give up the play calling to, I just don't understand. I don't get it. It is not the problem. No. We have been our own worst enemy, and that's a fact.
It's not there, and if you watch the All-22 is available to everybody, so it's not hard to find.
Yeah, get it. It makes you a smarter football fan. It really does. You see the whole game. You see why routes are run in concept with each other. What you are trying to accomplish. One of the things if you're watching the pass game, for example, team's playing a zone defense, right? Try to think in your mind, who are we trying to stress with this? Who then must you read as a quarterback? Right. What should the decision be? Think about it through those lenses, and it's anything on a run play. Where's this play designed to go? Okay, if it's blocked up front side, you run it front side. If they cut off the front side, where's the cutback lane supposed to be? Who's supposed to be getting the reach block on the backside to seal that cutback lane? So then you're understanding why they say this is the ultimate team sport. There are 11 people working in concert on every play to make it work, and most times, most plays are designed to stress 1 or 2 people on the defense that you're reading and then deciding what you do with the football, whether it's in the pass game or in the run game. It's the same. You're trying to stress certain people on a defense, and they give you the signal of what you do to have success.
Well said. The Joe Thomas Hour is up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Right now, Northeast Factory Direct has a lot of furniture in stock. You can go to Northeast Factory Direct, get exactly what you're looking for. They don't need all the gimmicky sales the other places are having to trick you into buying the furniture. They have the same low prices on high-quality furniture. Northeast Factory Direct's going to have you covered with sofas, dining room tables, mattresses, game room equipment, hot tubs, even kitchen cabinets, all the same furniture and brands you see at the other stores, but for a whole lot less. There's only one way they're like the other stores. You're going to be buying a brand new piece of furniture. It's going to be delivered right to your home. Check them out, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. And with that, we begin the Joe Thomas Hour of Cleveland Browns Daily as we welcome in the Hoff. Boy, Hoff, this was tough, man. I mean, it was tough. We were going over some of the things that our defense was able to do, how difficult you made it on Aaron Rodgers at times. The fact that you had a chance to win in Lambeau as 7.5-point underdogs or whatever it ended up being by the time you got to kick. And you were just done in by turnovers again. As you were watching, what were your thoughts in terms of in real time and now that you've had a couple of days to let it marinate?
Yeah, just same thing that you guys were thinking, right? Opportunity squandered. You lose that opportunity. When you're on the road, you can't have turnovers, and that's what it came down to, the turnovers and the sacks. Those were the two big things in a game where your defense played really, really good football, and you had a lot of guys out of position doing everything that they possibly could in spite of all the COVID absences out there, and you had a chance. So you have to feel good about the spirit and the effort and how close you were. But the concerning things is we got to figure out how to solve this turnover issue and not let the quarterback get sacked quite as much, because as you saw what happened on Sunday, I'm saying there's a chance, there's more than a chance for us to still win this division, get a home playoff game if we do what we're supposed to over the next 2 weeks. And if the teams that are favored with the Bengals and the Steelers, the Ravens and the Steelers, if the favored team wins in those two games, we're in the playoffs. So I think there should be a lot of optimism, although there's definitely some things that need to get corrected from Saturday's game.
When you are a team that, as you've laid it out, I think you are right. It is, if things happen according to the way that Vegas thinks they happen, which doesn't always happen, we know that, the Browns will have an opportunity to certainly have the chance in Week 18 to be playing for the division. But, one of the things we've talked about is that this team, and it goes back to last year, there have been 8 games, Ravens on Monday night, Chiefs in the playoffs, and then you go the Chiefs earlier this year, the Chargers a game as well, and then you get into the brutal stretch where it was the Steelers, the Ravens, the Raiders, and now this one. And so that's 8 games, really over just over a full season's worth of action, where we've had the opportunity to come through at the end and have failed to do so. How do you deal with that? Because isn't that part of it? Is part of it's the belief, like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? Because right now there's certainly some questioning of your belief in that locker room and your ability to close things out. And the game of football and in the NFL, everybody is so good and there's so much parity. You see it every week, right? Like every fan base almost in the entire league, except for maybe the tiny 1 or 2 teams on both ends of the bell curve, is kind of feeling the same way this season, right? Where you're almost 500. You have those games that you feel like you let it get away. And then in the back of your mind, because we're fans and we love the success of our team, you forget about the games where you won the close one and the other team's fans are saying, we let that one get away. But I think for the Browns, it's important for the coaches and the players to just kind of focus on what's right in front of them and what you can control and not think about the what ifs throughout this season. Like, you have a great opportunity over these next 2 weeks to close things out and sort of change your mindset and change your narrative in your head of not being able to finish games that you should finish. And then all of a sudden there's a really good opportunity for you to kind of start anew and afresh in the playoffs. And you just got to focus on trying to get yourself to those playoffs by doing what you need to do in the next 2 games.
Joe, a lot of fans will say, boy, why don't we just run Nick Chubb 35 times? But, every time let's run Nick Chubb 35, no matter how many people are in the box. In simplest terms, for the people out there that are feeling that way, and Nathan and I do our best, but we're not a Hoff, how do you explain why that doesn't work in the National Football League and why it's not a recipe for long-term success?
You guys aren't Hoffs yet, but it's still coming. You still have time, so don't sell yourself short. No, the short answer is the more you run the ball, the more defenses can predict before the snap that you're going to run the ball, so then they can call defenses that have the greatest chance of stopping you running the football. It's not like in varsity football, if you got a superpower against a crappy varsity team, and it doesn't matter how many guys you put in the box or whatever defense they play, you're just that much physically better. Like I mentioned before, in the NFL, there's a lot of parity. So if you call the right defense, especially against a running play, there's more times than not that you're going to stuff them. Doesn't matter who the personnel is on either side. Doesn't matter if you got Nick Chubb at running back or the third string running back from the worst team rushing the football in the NFL, because these guys are all really good. And so it is nice, and you do love seeing Nick Chubb getting lots of carries because he had a great night on Saturday. But if you remember back when Peyton Manning was the quarterback for the Colts, they ran the ball a little bit, and they were really effective at it. They weren't really a good running team, but they didn't do it a whole lot because they were more of a passing team. They spread teams out, and they ran when they had a light box, and they were pretty successful at doing that. But if they just all of a sudden said, hey, we're averaging 4.5 or 5 yards a carry, we need to run the ball way more, now all of a sudden teams are going to take some of their resources away from defending the pass and put them in there and shut down your running game, and all of a sudden you go from averaging 4.5 yards a carry to 2 yards a carry. And in the run game, that's a big problem because if you're sitting at 3rd and 6, more than likely you're not making it. And that's the difference between averaging 2 yards a carry on 1st and 2nd down versus 3.5 or 4 yards a carry and having a really manageable 3rd and short. So if you become more predictable and you're always running the ball, defenses will call the right defense and they will slow down your rushing attack. They might not completely stop it, but they're definitely going to slow you down. And then you're going to be stuck in 3rd and long in a situation where you've only thrown a couple times in the game. So it's like the Mac Jones, can you count on it? If you haven't really done it, your receiver's been doing nothing but blocking all day. So they haven't sort of gotten to the rhythm with your quarterback. So you still, I think, no matter how good you are at one or the other, you still always want to have a little bit of balance.
And that's the thing, Hoffa. And you watch all the tape. You talk to a lot of people around this league. And I think the thing that it's so hard for me to get my head around is how many people are complaining about the play calling and that Kevin Stefanski shouldn't even be calling the plays anymore. My contention is our offense is put in a position to succeed a lot. And even on that last drive on the first down pass to David Njoku, that should have been a chunk play. So that's a good play call. It was set up for success against the defense at that moment. What can you say just to that aspect of it and give your own feeling and feel free, obviously, if you disagree with me to disagree.
So by the end of the game, we had one offensive line starter at his normal spot, Wyatt Teller. I went
the whole game
where we had the same. Yeah. I had seasons where we had the same 5 offensive linemen start the whole season and we stunk, And so for Kevin Stefanski to be able to come up with a game plan and those guys on offense to be able to put up more than 400 yards of offense against a really good Green Bay Packers defense, that says a lot about their success. Now, granted, there's always going to be a play here and there or times in the game where, as a fan, especially when you don't win, you're going to be hypercritical about should have made this call in that situation instead of this call. And even a coach, in hindsight, if they're sitting there on Monday morning or Sunday in this case, and they're watching it, they're probably saying, I wish I would have called this in that situation. But that doesn't mean necessarily the call that they made was a terrible call. It was when you're given all the information that you're given in that situation, you're making the best call that you possibly can, and then you have success or failure on that play. Then hindsight, you have more information because of what the defense did to you that gives you more information, more intelligence for the next time you call a play. So, yeah, it's easy at the end of the day to say, well, you should have called this play in that situation, or you should have called that play, or it should have been a run, or it should have been a pass. But that's only because you've been given different information after watching the outcome of what happened and after seeing what the defense did to you, whereas before you call that play, you're going off of probability and statistics and feel and flow in the game. And so I honestly, I give Stefanski and this offense a ton of credit for being able to put up the number of yards and the number of points that they did put up, including with 4 interceptions and 5 sacks. That's pretty amazing to think about what they did, especially as I compare to my career, where if we had 300 yards in a game, we were feeling really good about ourselves. If we put up 21 points, we were feeling really good. And usually that happened only in a situation where we were flawless with no fumbles, no interceptions. So I think there was a lot of efficiency in this offense. They're scoring points. Now, could they be scoring more? Yeah. They need to win more, obviously. That's part of it. But to say, like, everything is lost or we need to make some huge changes, I think is crazy.
Joe, going back to Thanksgiving week, the Packers had scored 31, 36, 45, 31, and then 24 against us. This offense was smoking, is the long and short of it. They got 3 touchdowns off of 3 turnovers. Other than that, the defense held, and without a lot of guys at every level, without corners, safeties, Clowney, with Joe Woods, and just the guys who did play and what they were able to do. It's as good as I've seen anybody play the Packers defensively in 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Yeah, this is a really good Packers offense that is clicking, and they only gave up 24 points, which most of those, correct me if I'm wrong, I think all 3 of the touchdowns came off of turnovers.
That's right.
So and that's the other thing you got to remember. Like, if your offense takes care of the football a little bit better, they're not putting you in those bad situations where now as a defense you have to come out and the best you can hope for is maybe hold them to a field goal or hoping that you can slow them down a little bit and get lucky with a turnover. And so to be able to hold Aaron Rodgers, who's probably going to be the MVP of the NFL, unless something crazy happens in the last couple weeks of the season, to 24 points, including all of them, I think, off the 4 interceptions, that's a pretty damn good job. And so here's the other thing. And if you're just putting X's and O's in your mind and you're one of those people that are pissed off at Kevin Stefanski for the play calling and you wish he needs to do something different, think about what the narrative was at the beginning of the season with Joe Woods and that defense. Oh, Joe Woods, we need to get him out of here. We need a new defensive coordinator. Yeah. Now what? This is the best defense in the NFL over the last half of the season? I mean, this is one of the highest-ranked defenses in the NFL. And so I think as fans, this is what we live for. This is us, right? The Browns. It's all we do. We absorb Browns content from morning when I get up to go take a leak at 4:30 in the morning until I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I'm watching Browns stuff. I'm consuming Browns Twitter. I don't have Instagram, but I got Browns Twitter. I'm reading articles. I'm watching film. Like, this is my life. And so, of course, we're going to be hypercritical in those situations when you lose. But that doesn't mean you should lose perspective on how good we are and how good we have it with our players and our coaching staff and how that compares to everybody else in the NFL.
I think you make some good points there, Hoff. And really, you look at this defense and their ability to just, as Beau pointed out, to overcome and adapt week after week. It is stunning, and it feels like if we can just get hot on offense, and in this game we were hot, but it's a missed extra point that puts you behind. It's the 4 turnovers. Other than that, we were hot. 28 first downs. 28 first downs.
Yeah.
They had 19. I mean, we could possess the ball for more than 4 minutes than they did. We moved it up and down the field. And I've heard coaches say every 100 yards that you gain of offense should be 7 points. So by that metric, we should have been at a minimum 28, probably a little bit more than that because you really only need to go 80 yards in a field every time you have it. So we're 75 yards now with the touchback out to the 25. It's there. If this offense can somehow get hot, it just feels like we could be a very dangerous team because we've played some good teams very, very tough this year. But we just have to figure out, and, I go back to that last drive and I say, all right, has there ever been a 2-minute drill that you know of, Hoff, that started with 3 straight runs? I mean, that's how we started it. But at some point, you've got to pick up chunks. It's time and yardage. It's nice to say, oh, we can get 8 yards a gain here. 8 yards is not that great necessarily in a 2-minute drill, especially if you get stopped on a run, which, by the way, is possible, that they could hold you to a 1 or 2 yard game. Look at the runs. We had chunk runs, and we had a lot of 1-2 yard runs. It's not 8 yards a pop. It's not 8, 8, 8, 8. And you need to be able to make those throws. But I go back to that first down play call, which I thought was a perfect one. It's that little teeny bit of execution that right now is the difference between us winning and losing. And if we can somehow get that, and I think Stefanski in his mind said, let's see the ball go through the net here for our quarterback. Got a great opportunity for it. We just didn't come through. But you need that to win. You can't just say, all right, we're in a 2-minute drill. We're going to run for forever. By the way, we ran it all last week, and we couldn't close it out. We ran it all against the Chargers. Remember that? When we had the ball with 3 minutes to go? Run. We didn't close that one out either.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Remember, what was the narrative last week? Oh, we should have thrown the ball when we had the chance on that 3rd and 3, right? And then if this week you throw it and instead of running it, then it's, we should have run the ball. And I get it. That's just what fans are. That's why as a player, I never got upset. My undies never got in a bunch about situations like that. Things that I never got upset about was refereeing because I had no control over it, and every team's fan base in the country is going to complain about the refereeing when there's a bad call. You benefit on the whole just as much as it hurts you throughout the course of a season as far as officiating goes, right? So to get all worked up about a certain situation, it makes you feel better. It gets you emotionally excited. It's something you can play into your buddies with. But in the end, it's a net zero, right? And the other thing is the play calling, because when you have the benefit of the hindsight, and as a fan, you're always going to complain about what the coach did if you lose a game, and play calling is the easiest thing to point to. Just talking about your 2-minute conversation, because that was the narrative. Whenever we talked about the 2-minute drill, you're fighting time and distance. So sometimes even like an 8 or a 10-yard run in your 2-minute drill is not a good thing if you get tackled in the middle of the field, because what happens is you've got your offensive line 10 yards back, you got your receivers running and blocking downfield, and now the ball gets tackled in the middle of the field, and the amount of time you have to waste to get everybody up on the line of scrimmage to either spike it or try to get another play called, then you have to waste a timeout. Typically, the only time you're going to call a running play is to get a first down in the 2-minute drill, or just to start a drive, because a lot of times what you want to do is you want to get positive yardage and you want to get the clock rolling in 2-minute drill, which kind of sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but on offense, the thought is when the clock is rolling and everybody's operating quickly, it doesn't allow the defense to get organized into complex blitzes and concepts in their coverage schemes, right? Because it takes a lot of communication on defense to organize a blitz. It takes guys moving a long distance. And so what you want to do a lot of times is you'll see a screen or a draw or a quick running play on first down to start a 2-minute drive, because then you know the next play call you can get as a coordinator, I'm probably going to get something vanilla. So now I can do some more of my downfield passing concepts. I can start maybe challenging the sidelines so I can get the ball and then get out of bounds. But to just run the ball all the way down the field towards the end of a game when you're fighting time and distance is not necessarily the right way to do things. And in the end, it might work 1 or 2 times, just like anything in the NFL. You might have a Mac Jones game where you throw the ball a couple times and you win. But more times than not, if that's your strategy, it's probably not going to work out.
No, it is not. And Browns fans, get into First Energy Stadium quicker on game day. Express Access is your path forward. Enroll for free today to enter through exclusive lanes at each entrance. Plus, use Express Access for a chance to win a signed Myles Garrett jersey and other prizes at the end of the season. Click on the Tickets tab in the Browns mobile app to learn more. Coming up next, more with the Hoff on the Joe Thomas Hour, including his thoughts on his old buddy Joel Bitonio playing his old position. We'll get into that coming up next, among other things. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll be part of the family. Visit Rumpke.com to learn more. Hoff, did you have a good Christmas?
We did, yeah. The kids had a great Christmas. They're like that perfect age, right? We got 8, 7, 5, and 3. So it's
joy.
still such a magical day. Oh, it's pure joy. I mean, they're all coming downstairs screaming their heads off, and it's World War III for 20 minutes as you're keeping your head down so you don't get hit by flying bows and ripped up pieces of wrapping paper and little army men that my son is tossing about the room, getting so excited. And then the next 2 hours is, Dad, help me put this together. Dad, what are you doing? Dad, come on. Dad, help me. So it was a great. How about you guys?
Great, man. It's great. Yeah, the boys are. Z's was probably less than. He was probably in a hotel in Green Bay. But
yes, but we did it
on.
We did it Wednesday, Thursday. So we did treated it as though Wednesday was Christmas Eve, Thursday was Christmas. It was great.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Mine are a little older than yours, Hoff. I'm 10, 8, 6. Well, Bootsy turned 6 on New Year's Eve, but 2 years apart. And it was 4:27 on the wake-up call, and I heard the pitter-patter, and my wife goes, well, you got to put an end to this. And so we did, and we negotiated to 5:27. So that's what we ended up. That was the
so
sweet
aggressive.
spot was 5:27 is what we got him to. But I try to remind myself that there will come a point where they won't be this excited, and so I live in the moment and embrace it a little bit. So we had a good one. But all good. I did get one gift for me too, where we have kind of an advanced laser tag thing that I got him with some night vision goggles and some walkie-talkies, and of course I have 3 boys, but I bought 4 sets, so a little something
just
for Dad.
Randomly.
Yeah, just a little something for Dad. Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely. What a gift Joel Bitonio has been at left tackle. Are you kidding me, Hoff? How about this?
It's amazing. Yeah, I said, I texted him after the game last week. I said, see, it's not that hard, buddy. I don't know what everyone makes such a big deal about. But he's been doing such a great job. And I think for him, his biggest attribute is he's just such a great athlete. And that's what made him such a good guard early on in his career, because he played left tackle at Nevada and then moved to guard. And he was playing guard before he really knew even where to line up at guard. I mean, his technique was not great when he was playing next to me. He didn't really know where he was supposed to go, but big, strong men who are athletic can win at any position in the NFL, and that certainly describes Joel Bitonio.
It's incredible, though, right? I got a chance to talk with him and laugh, and he said, I was telling him that, we had talked, and you said, you'd have a tough time doing at guard what he did tackle. He's like, he'd be fine. And then he's like, well, guard is pretty hard. And I loved it. But, yeah, just the way that he goes out there about his business and competes is just, it's awesome to watch, man. And like you said, we had one starter at their natural position on our offensive line. Our defense was without – let's see. Miles was half a Miles, according to Miles. No Tack, no Clowney, no Greg Newsome, no Troy Hill, no Ronnie Harrison, no John Johnson. And you went and competed with a team that many people would say has consistently been certainly a top 3 team in the NFL, right?
Yep. For sure.
It's just right there, Hoff. And that's why I just feel like if we can get hot and we can infuse ourselves with that belief. I remember when Michael Kendricks was here briefly, and I got to talk with him, and he talked about that magical run that they had with the Eagles where they win the Super Bowl. They end up winning with Nick Foles. Their quarterback goes down. They win it anyway. He goes, we just had this belief that no matter what, we were going to win the game, and it kind of manifested itself. And I just think, we have a chance to go in on a 2-game winning streak. In fact, that's the only way we go to the playoffs is on a 2-game winning streak. And maybe we can start to get that belief. And maybe one of these games will call upon us to come through in a clutch situation, and we will.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think that today's NFL is so much more about getting hot in December than it is where you are seated in the playoffs as far as your ability to go win the Super Bowl, because there's so much parity. There's not these teams that just dominate their way through the season and then dominate their way to the Super Bowl because, A, you're seeing so many guys miss more time with injuries. At least that's my perception. But also because there's all these teams that are basically 500, everybody is good enough to beat anybody else on almost any given day. Look what the Houston Texans did. They beat the Chargers. Yep. I mean, I would have bet $100 that the Houston Texans were not going to win a game this season if you asked me in the offseason because of all their issues they had to deal with and their lack of talent. They're nobody. I mean, they're winning games with Davis Mills at quarterback. And it's just amazing when you look at like the direction the NFL is headed. And I think that's why fans are ever more passionate, because there's so many more teams come this time of the season that still have that belief that they have a legitimate chance to go to the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl still. You're not getting eliminated as early on in the season as you were in years past. And you don't have as many teams at the top where you can easily say like, well, it'd be great to make the playoffs, but nobody's getting past the Patriots, or, nobody's getting past whoever in the NFC. I mean, just look at what the Buccaneers did last season, where they got hot, the last 7-8 games of the season, and then they stayed hot through the playoffs and they win the Super Bowl, and they bring everybody back. And they've struggled a good bit in the middle part of the season, especially when a few injuries pile up. And so really it can be anybody's game. And I think that belief in players' minds should stick there, because you go on and you win these last 2 games, and, the things that Vegas thinks are going to happen, and all of a sudden you find yourself hosting a home playoff game. Shoot, I like our chances with the way we're running the football and the way our defense is playing in January, playing games outside in the elements. Like, that's exactly where you want to be. At the beginning of the season, if you told me that's where we were going to be in January, I'd be really happy, because I feel like that's exactly the situation that we need with the underdog mentality to give ourselves a Cinderella story to the Super Bowl.
Well, and guys, as we kind of turn the page and look ahead to Pittsburgh this week, which is actually next Monday, a week from today, it's very likely that this scenario, by the time you take the field on Monday night, is that if you beat Pittsburgh and beat Cincinnati, you win your division. I think it's very likely that the Rams are going to beat the Ravens, and as good as Cincinnati's playing, I think it's likely Kansas City beats them. And that plays out everything that needed to happen yesterday. It's despite us not handling our business, it's all there for you, which is a pretty remarkable thing considering how this season has gone, Joe.
Yeah, it is amazing. And to think, like, the last 2 weeks, we went into the game thinking, all right, everything's set up perfectly. We just take care of our business. We're in great shape. You lose the game, and obviously whenever you lose, everything looks worse. Like we always talked about, when you win, everything tastes better. The beer is colder, the cigars are sweeter, blah, blah, blah. When you lose, you're hypercritical about yourself. Everything feels like crap. You don't want to see your family. You hate them. They hate you. Everybody hates each other. You hate your teammate. You win. You got camaraderie. Everybody talks with this great chemistry, blah, 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 which really was just a result of either one or your loss, right? But all of a sudden, we get a little bit of time, a little bit of air between the end of our game and what happens with the rest of the league, and you're still sitting in a really good situation. And I think you got to keep that in mind and use that as sort of a motivator for this week, and to kind of hone and focus your preparation, because we need the best preparation and the best focus we've had all season this week to get ready for this game against the Steelers.
Hey, we got to beat that. There is no. We keep feeling like this is a must-win. This is a must-win. We keep coming up short, and yet
we're there now.
We're there now. It is 100% impossible without winning these 2, and you're going to need some help as well from things that you do not have control over, but that do feel certainly feasible, and you'd say even likely, but they've got to play the games. You certainly would have, for example, had the Browns needed the Chargers to beat the Texans, you would have said going into that game before it's played, that's a lock. Don't even worry about it.
No.
Did not happen. So there is still a lot that needs to happen for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, there is. As we will go around the league coming up next and go over every game and everything we saw. And we were able to see all of it because our game was on Saturday, so you were able to watch the league in a way you normally couldn't. Before we get to that, though, OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns. They're going to have all the X's and O's for your office. Give them a call, 216-485-2000, or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. One thought, every game in the league coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau here for Raising Cane's. What do you get when you combine the best ingredients with the best crew? You get Raising Cane's quality chicken finger meals made just for you. Join the crew ready to safely serve the community. Apply today at workatcanes.com or text RC Jobs to 97211. Standard message rates may apply. Raising Cane's is a proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics. Go Bucks. Time for One Thought around the league, Week 16. Hello, Gibby.
Hello, gentlemen.
Give it.
Glad everybody had